Jenny, I know you wanted to hop in on the whole conversation about joint ventures, so here you are.
Well, I was going to take a bit more of an angle on the question, I believe, was what should you be careful about, something along those lines. I have experience of this. I've had 4 joint ventures, and I would say absolutely from day one, when you're all best of buddies, get it written up as a contract. Either if you've done it in a limited company, have a shareholders agreement, and if it's just a partnership, have a JV agreement. Go to someone like Tim, get it sorted out from day one when you all are happy with each other. Because when it's right, it's fine, and when it's not right, that's when you need the paperwork to fall back on. So, point 1, definitely get a contract written up that you can rely on should things go wrong. Secondly, have very clearly defined areas of responsibility. You might have someone who's really good at sourcing, and someone else is good at financing, and someone else is good at maybe looking at how you could convert a property from what it is to what it's going to be. So know what everybody's role is, and try not to stand on each other's toes. Let people do the job you brought them in to do. You might hear me talking from experience here. I think it's really important in a joint venture to trust your partners to do the job that they're going to do, that they were brought in to do. And I mean, I would advise that have a joint venture agreement per project. Don't jump right in, get a limited company, get all the all the admin behind you, and then say we're going to do 3 or 4 projects together. Do it one at a time. Joint venture agreement per development or project, and then start another one for the next one. That way you've always got an end to it. You can have a natural end, or it can continue if that's what you choose to do, but you're not trapped by it should things go wrong. That's what I wanted to impart about that question.
I've got this sort of unwritten rule in joint ventures, which I write about in my book as well. The big thing about JVs is that you're sharing the risk here. So it's risky. It's different to if it was a loan. Now, to do that, you've got to make sure that you know this person really, really well. Even if they're good at what they do, can you trust them? And they need to do the same with you. So you need to get to know each other pretty well. And my unwritten rule is never do a JV with anyone, and in fact loan as well, that you wouldn't be prepared to come and stay at your house. Come and have dinner, stay overnight in the spare room, because I know you well enough, so I think, that due diligence, you cannot beat it. You've got to know these people. I know people that have done things so quickly, gone into JVs before they've even known them. Paul.
I totally agree with you, Bronwen. Excellent advice. So don't just, excuse the phrase, jump into bed with the first person who offers you either money or their time. You need to research them. Go on Facebook, see how involved they are in property. Don't take them on their face value. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who can talk about educators forever about the mistakes that they've made by going onto their property courses. So always check the people out first. Going back to the first question about limited companies, I've got a limited company which I set up back in 2001, but that was because of the circumstances that I set up the business. But the vast majority of my properties are all in a limited liability partnership now. So that's something I strongly advocate. Look at LLPs, but obviously take tax advice. Don't do things because of tax, do things to save yourself tax, but make sure it makes sense. So obviously speak to experts such as Simon on here. The other thing I'd say that Jenny mentioned, joint venture agreements. The thing I've got with all my I've got 3 or 4 joint venture partners, and I've got, as she said, an individual deed of trust with each property. But the other thing, because A, I'm an accountant, and B, I don't automatically trust other people automatically, or the bank account's in my name, or the mortgages are in my name. So if they fall out with me, that's their problem. But just the other way of doing it is say do one for you, one for me. and build a trust that way. That way you're not interlinked. And I would always say that, which I'm sure Tim or Simon Hodgson will mention, be careful who you do financially interlink yourself with. So all my JV partners aren't financially interlinked to me, so there is nothing on my credit check which ties to that. And I would say on one of my JV partners, they've since been bankrupt. So that's a good job that I didn't. So always make sure that you keep divisions of responsibilities and divisions of the finance. So if they buy a property in their name, make sure you're protected. And similarly, if you buy it in your name, make sure they're protected. But don't get yourself mixed up. And obviously, if it's a limited company, then get a shareholders agreement. The other final thing I'd like to say about limited companies is always ask the question, how are you going to get the money out? I'll leave that with you. Over to Tim. I'm sure he's got some input on this matter.
Oh, Tim, you're on mute.
I thought I had unmuted myself. I'm back as an airline pilot. Right. There are three things, basically, I think we need to look at here. Firstly, as Bronwen mentioned, trust. Trust is absolutely essential. And doing due diligence. So I think the three things I would say is, number one, you need to make sure they've got the right skill set and the right personality. And there are various ways of testing that. But you really do need to make sure you know a lot about them. Meeting them at a do and having a chat with them is all very well. But there are people out there who are simply dishonest. We've come across people changing names. We've come across people claiming to have bank accounts and property when they didn't own it, even showing people around property they didn't own. So you really got to do your due diligence. And as also was mentioned, the critical thing here is actually getting it in writing and getting a solid joint venture contract agreement. And there are a number of ways of doing it, depending how you set the joint venture up. But too many people cut corners. And I've known some quite experienced people cutting corners here and now in all sorts of trouble because they haven't got the paperwork right. Don't just rely on something downloaded offline or your mate gave you or someone down the pub mentioned he got a copy. Make sure it's properly drafted for your particular circumstances because all of our circumstances are different. And if it's any help, on the group chat, I've just put up a page on our website, which is all about joint ventures. It summarizes, it's about 2,500 words, the kind of things you need to think about, the kind of questions you need to ask yourself, but particularly due diligence. In due course, we're going to put another page on the website with a great list of due diligence. It's a very important issue and one which always people talk about, but actually very rarely actually say what due diligence actually is. And that's probably another question we can deal with sometime, but it's a lengthy one. So do your due diligence. Get it in writing and make sure you really know these people and you trust them.